somebody's got to do it.
I know, I didn't see that problem.
Appreciate that.
I know.
Somebody's got to do it. Okay, are we about ready? Okay, well, thanks for coming out, guys. I'm actually looking forward to this. I think it's going to be fun. It's kind of a real program thing. I've done my own thing here to sort of customize it for us, and we're going to be spending more time on the sting operations than what they did. Because I think that's a big deal. But just to kick it off here, I want to show you this. I think it's pretty fun. Not sure where the sound is.
Oh, you lose sound again?
It's all right. Huh. Technical difficulties. Have you guys ever heard of this Just for Laughs? It is, it's a Canadian humor group, and they do all these fun things.
Today is actually pretty great. We're making things smarter. We're making things right.
All right.
One more thing to learn about today.
All right, so that is sort of the kickoff. Let's see here. If you'll check out your introduction, I want to just cover a few administrative items first. We do have a lot of information to cover. Just turn off your cell phones. We're going to take like two small breaks and a half hour for lunch. So you know where the bathrooms are, and make sure your cell phones are silenced at least. I'm thinking we can get done way before 3, but this is my first time. I don't know how it's really going to go. And so, any questions before we get started? Michael, you missed the gag.
Huh?
You missed the gag. Catch it.
Gag?
Yeah.
Get over it.
All right. So what we're going to watch now. How do I get this organized? This is a little video by a lawyer. Kind of sets the tone for why we're here.
So Glenn, just so you know, I might have to go talk to Mariner again. They're installing counterpoint.
Okay. Well, try not to be gone for too long, because it's all important stuff, and
Okay.
you need to take an exam at the end of the day.
$50, I'll do it for you.
Hey, Michael, is Linda gonna be okay with
80 or above.
me being back here? Is Linda gonna be okay with me being back
I sue bars.
Okay, here it is.
I will, if you serve someone to intoxication and beyond, if you put someone on the road that does injury, I will take your insurance proceeds, I will take your liquor license, I will take your establishment, I will take your savings, your money, your home, I will take you to the cleaners. Such is the message of the Plaintiffs' Bar of the United States. The legal industry responds to public needs by the same way that religion and insurance does, and that's by selling fear. I'm here to sell you that fear today. If you don't respond to the great problem that is on the road in the form of drunk drivers, then there are going to be more of me than you can handle, and your industry will be hanging on by its fingernails to survive. Today, every time we pick up the newspaper, it is commonplace on a daily basis to see the horrible story of another drunk driving accident and the terrible cost in human life and the dollars that we all contribute to our society caused by the drunk driver. We can, as a society, better use those resources than to waste them at the hands of alcohol. There are a couple of theories of legal liability existing in the various states of the United States, and those are either at the hands of dram shop legislation, statutes on the books that specifically delineate your responsibilities as a server of alcohol, or in other states that I'm more familiar with, the common law theory of recovery, namely that of negligence. And the negligence theory of recovery very simply is this. By reason of the liquor licenses which you all hold to serve alcohol and to profit, the society has said in return you owe us a duty. And that duty is not to serve someone who is already drunk. That duty is not to serve someone who is under the age and shouldn't be drinking. And that duty is not to serve someone who has a propensity for abusing alcohol. If you abide by that duty, there is no problem. But as Oscar Wilde said some time ago, a duty is someone else's responsibility. No, it's not. It's our own responsibility. It is each one of your responsibilities. I stand before you with some credibility and some credentials in that I have handled cases that have gone to juries, and I have gone to the courts that write the laws and have established expansive liability against you. My claim to fame in my original case, my first case, was a case called Cimino versus the Milford Keg. And in that case, just so you get a flavor for what you're up against, the dastardly facts that a jury is going to hear, and which is going to engender their response in the form of dollars, goes something like this. On a cold January evening, about 6 o'clock in the evening, not an ungodly hour, young John Cimino, at 7 years of age, was walking just ahead of his dad on the snow-strewn sidewalks of Milford, Massachusetts, walking home from his nightly visit with his grandfather and grandmother, as is the Italian custom in a small, closely woven community, when out of nowhere, with no lights on, a driver came careening down the street, crossed the lane of traffic, and unfortunately there were no cars going in the opposite direction to stop him, drove up on a sidewalk for some 150 yards, striking young John and leaving him bloody, battered, tattered, and torn on the sidewalk, striking his father, Joseph, knocking him over a line of shrubs, driving through a telephone pole and splitting it in 3 pieces. One portion of that telephone pole actually piercing and protruding out of the back window of his car. Drove back onto the line, through the line of traffic, into his lane of traffic, and drove another 1/4 of a mile to the next bar, where he parked his car and went in to get a drink. never knowing really that he had struck and left a young 7-year-old boy dying on the sidewalks of the town of Milford. How difficult is it for a jury to understand this case and your liability when they have to picture a 7-year-old child, the sons or daughters of any of you here, or any of your children's children, or any of your brothers or sisters' children, when the description of that young boy laying on the sidewalk is that every time he moved, a bone protruded out of another portion of his body. There was blood coming out of his ears and his nose and dribbling from the side of his mouth. That he laid there in agony, in shock, on the cold sidewalk saying, "Daddy, help me." And Daddy bent over and couldn't help. How difficult is it to collect money from you from the sale of alcohol when I described that father having to go to bed every night and walking by the empty bedroom of his son who is now deceased? Or going to or not going to the graduation party that his son would have been enjoying? Or the military service that his son will never have the opportunity to provide to his country? Or the grandchildren that the father will never know? How difficult is it to get piles and piles of money from you?
Pretty sobering. No? Pretty scary stuff. So, I show that because I kind of want to set the tone. For the gravity of the situation, we are not nearly in the, hang on a second. So we're not nearly, as prone to these kinds of things as bars are, but still the possibility exists. And this is what we were showing. It had an impact on me. And some of you guys don't have kids, but I do, and this is important stuff. So I guess what I want to focus on next is the compliance checks. If you'll just turn your page and follow along with me. Yeah. Oh, you don't have a book? They're right up there, Michael. If everyone makes sure they can sign in and grab a book. There isn't a book. Oh, there isn't a book. We have one more person than I expected. I got one right here for you, Michael. Thank you. Okay, also to set the tone a little bit, I do want this to be interactive. I want you guys to ask questions, raise your hand, interject, whatever you need to do. I guess we'll get into our experience here in the room pretty quickly. Yes, you get to keep these books. You can take notes in them. You can do whatever you'd like, and the syllabus is yours too. Okay, so I just want to go over the compliance checks. These are the sting operations. We've been hit, I think, every year, maybe twice a year, and we generally do a really good job. But I want to cover it because it's, I think, almost as much of a liability to us as something like what that lawyer was talking about. We have a responsibility because alcohol can be abused, and so I want to cover this a little bit. So the purpose of the compliance checks it's the only way the state knows how to check. They've determined in their infinite wisdom that sending a 19-year-old girl in and trying to get us to sell to them is really the best way that they've come up with to be able to see if we're complying with the law. So that's pretty much the purpose of those things. I don't think it's terribly effective myself. I think there's other ways. I think, like, we just had an experience with OSHA, and they're being very cooperative. They want to educate. They want to help us be in compliance. They're not trying to trick us into making a mistake. But it is the reality of being in the beverage business here in Colorado, so we got to deal with that. I did say already that stings may be as much or more of a threat to our business and your employer as serving or selling to a minor or over-serving adults. So when and how it happens, it could be as much as twice a year. There's no warning. It's really unpredictable. They can come in the winter. They can come in the summer when it's really busy, when it's really quiet. You just never know when they might come in. Usually one or two people come in. Typically it's a girl, and they mill around. They do not taste. They ask for a recommendation for a bottle. They might give you a story like, I'm making dinner for my boyfriend and I'm having steak. Can you recommend a red wine to go with it? They'll present this little opportunity that sounds just so, oh, have I got the wine for you? Here you go. And you already took the hook and you did it. But that's what we do. We're all about customers here. And so we just have to be vigilant. And that's all there is to it. They select or ask for a bottle to purchase. They don't taste the wine. They pay and they walk out. And as soon as they do, they flag the officer that's sitting out there in the wings, and they come in and they say, "Okay, looks like you served to an underage person. Here's your ticket." They issue the citation. So I want to talk about, there's both personal effects and there are business effects. We're going to talk about the personal effects first. And Terrell here is going to share just a little bit of her story, how it actually happened to her just recently. When was it? What was the date of it, Terrell?
June 11th.
June 11th.
1:35.
Okay.
Okay, most of you here have already heard my story, I think. And so if you have questions throughout this, please feel free to ask. We got a call from St. Catherine's and they said, I was at the meadery and they said there's a sting operation going on. So we were all aware of it. And it was a busy day for me. Donna was working on shipping things. I was out on the floor and it was busy. And it was after 1 o'clock. I hadn't eaten and I hadn't gone to the bathroom all day. So I was pushing, and I had people at the bar. I had people in the back doing a tour. Brian was doing a tour for me, and a young lady came in. And what Glenn said is very true. These kids, some of them are from acting classes, and they don't act like a typical kid, teenager person who comes in and is just trying to buy. They engage everyone in the bar in conversation. This young lady asked everyone, what's your favorite? She told me the same scenario. I'm meeting a guy, we're gonna have a little dinner tonight. I have a bottle of red wine. I said, well, ours are, they're not your typical red wine. She said, but I was tasting in Paonia yesterday, and they said these would be the wines I would like. And that was, I was tasting in Paonia. Don't trust anyone. If they say they just came from Grand River and you have even an inkling that they might not have been, ask for their ID. Don't take their word, they will lie. So I showed her the wine that I thought she might like. She took the menu, went over to the wall, talked to the people that were at the bar, and eventually came up to the counter and said, this is the one I think I would like. She bought with cash, which is another big red flag, kept saying, I don't want to drink because I'm going to drive. And a minute later, she was out the door, and a minute later they were back in, Christina Mestis and Brian Turner, and they issued my ticket, and I appeared in court with Michael on the 31st of July, which was very humiliating. We were in there with drug offenders and DUI offenders and domestic violence people, and if you're not embarrassed enough just going into that situation and sitting there with those people who are very comfortable with their crimes was very embarrassing and very humiliating. I went to, then I went over and met with the DA, and he asked me if I wanted to pay my fine, which would have been $700 plus. At that point, they didn't even really give me a figure. Or if I'd like a plea agreement where I would do community service, meet with the probation officer for a year, 2 times a month, and then this would all be off my record. And I said I would like the plea agreement, so I did that. Then I went to the sheriff's office and I got fingerprinted and they took my mug shot, so I am now a member of the CBI, which is really also very embarrassing and humiliating. None of this was fun. The only silver lining in all of this was when I went to my probation officer and she asked me where I would like to perform my community service. And there was a place here in Palisade called Desert Edge Therapy, which is a little ranch that they have for kids with autism, and they're allowed to ride the horses there. And so I opted for that. I shoveled a lot of horse manure, I cleaned stalls, I cleaned the barn, I did filing, I did computer work, and in 1 month I completed all of my community service.
How many hours was it?
24.
24.
24 hours. So I did that, and every time I went to see my probation officer, I had to pay $50. I had to pay $100 to start my community service. I mean, you have to pay. You have to pay mentally and you have to pay financially to do all of this when they catch you. So I went every month as I was directed, and in November, my probation officer said, "You're not going to come anymore. You don't need to. You've done everything you're supposed to do. I can tell that this has made a terrific impact on you." And she said, "And I'm also in January going to ask that your sentence be commuted from 12 months to 6 months." So she signed the paperwork, and so did I. She sent it in, and on Valentine's Day, I got my 6-month sentence. So I'm done with it now, and I'm very happy. I do have to find out if it was taken off my record, because that was my whole reason for doing the plea agreement, is that, I mean, I could have just paid the fine and been done, but it would have always been there. And so that's my last step, and my probation officer said she would help me do that. She has to get the paperwork for me to go in and find out if it has been expunged from my records. So